In this video, we're going to find all solutions of the trig function 1 plus cosine squared of x equals 2 times the cosine squared of x over 2 in the interval 0 to 2 pi. So looking at our original problem, we see that we actually have a half-angle formula that we could use for the cosine of x over 2. And because the cosine here is squared, we can just take our half-angle formula and square it. Remember that our half-angle formula for cosine is going to be plus or minus the square root of 1 plus cosine of x over 2. So we can plug that in. So that gives us 1 plus cosine squared of x equals 2 times plus or minus the square root of 1 plus cosine x all over 2 quantity squared. Now, because we're squaring this, it actually doesn't matter if it's a positive or a negative, because a negative times a negative is a positive. So either way, our answer is going to come out positive. So we can drop our plus or minus sign. So that gives us 1 plus the cosine squared of x equals 2 times the quantity, the square root of 1 plus the cosine of x, all divided by 2, quantity squared. And we know that squares and square roots are inverses of each other, which means that that square root and that square, they're going to cancel each other out. And by looking at what that leaves us, we can see that our 2 and our divide by 2, those are going to cancel each other out, which is going to leave us with 1 plus the cosine squared of x equals 1 plus the cosine of x. So we're going to move everything over to the left-hand side so that we have everything on the same side of the equation. So we're going to subtract 1 from both sides, and we're also going to subtract a cosine of x. So those will cancel out. And as luck would have it, our 1's over here are going to cancel out. But our cosine squared of x and our cosine of x aren't the same, so they're not going to affect each other. So now we have the cosine squared of x minus the cosine of x equals 0. And we're left here with two terms. 1, 2. And we can see that they both have a cosine of x in there. So we can go ahead and we can factor a cosine of x out. So that's going to give us the cosine of x times the quantity cosine x minus 1. And using the zero product properties, we can pull those apart, which gives us the cosine of x equals 0 and the cosine of x minus 1 equals 0. So if we go ahead and solve for cosine x there, that's going to tell us that the cosine of x also equals a 1. And this is where we're going to think back to our unit circle and wonder, where is the cosine of x 0 and where is the cosine of x 1? And so looking at our unit circle, we see that our cosine of x equals 0 at pi over 2, and it equals 0 at 3 pi over 2. And that x equals 1 only at 0. And the reason we're choosing 0 and not 2 pi is because up in our interval, we see that we have a bracket around our 0, and we have a parenthesis by the 2 pi, which means 0 is included and 2 pi is not. And those are our answers on the interval from 0 to 2 pi.